Hi guys, it's Erin from Ginger's Florals. Look what we got yesterday. That is about 5,000 tulips. You see that whole crate full? We have our work cut out for us over the next week. However, since we got all these and I still have all of these, the plan for today is to plant pretty much every bulb that we have that isn't tulips. So we've done a bit of this already recently. We planted some alliums, we planted some hyacinths, and now we got to get the rest of this in. So right now we have 8. This is also this pinball wizard allium. I have this batch and then 4 in this box. And then we've got, these are ambassador alliums. These are huge. They have these great big blooms that sit on top of these like 4-foot tall stems. They're so cool. And then we've got these ones, the purple sensation. There's probably 60 of these left. And then some crocus. So alliums in general, the way we're going to plant these is we're going to use the auger, the same one that I used for the hyacinths the other day. This guy, it's a 3-inch auger on a 3-foot bar. And I'll plant these between 5 and 6 inches deep, 6 inches apart, give or take. And I'm going to try and plant them in groupings of odd numbers, 5, 6, 7, depending on what we have to use. And then once we get all of those, my plan right now is for these great big ambassador alliums. They're going to go up front here in this garden. I'll probably put some of the purple sensation also in here, just scatter them about, but we already have back here by the Dusty Miller. We already have some of these back here that bloom every year. There's some over here and some over here. And I really love the look of them in the spring. So we're just going to beef up that show. Probably put some down on this end a little bit because we don't have any of those back there. And then the other 2 varieties we're going to put in this cottage garden over here, and then the entryway garden in the back that leads to the flower field. There should be plenty of room in those areas to put all of these alliums. It's going to be such a fun show of color in the spring. All of these will bloom at slightly different times within a week or 2 of each other, but it should be a long-lasting bloom show in the spring. It's so cool. I love alliums. We went pretty heavy on them this year for our gardens. And then, like I said, along with that, I also have 64 crocus. So these guys are super tiny. Most of you, I imagine, are already familiar with crocus, but in case you're not, they're so sweet. They bloom in the earliest part of the season. So usually late February for us, before even the daffodils start coming up. These guys are coming up. And they just have the sweetest little like 3-inch flowers and little tiny strappy stems. They're just so fun to have in that early part of spring. Might have the very first of the tiny little daffodils coming up, maybe, but usually it's just those guys, and then the little daffodils, and then so on. The whole garden starts to wake up. So they're one of the very first indicators of spring for us. And we have, the way I'm going to plant them the same way I'm doing everything else. I'm going to use the auger, but because the bulbs are so small, I could probably fit 2 or 3 in each of those holes. And that's my plan. I'm going to take them down here, and because they bloom so early, they usually come up and bloom out before we ever even have a chance to mow the grass out here. So I'm gonna aug a bunch of holes around. This is a mimosa tree. Isn't that the prettiest maple tree right now? I'm gonna drill a bunch of holes around the base of this tree and put the crocus in there. I've done this before. There's some in there now, but I'm just like the alliums. I'm just gonna increase the number of flowers in that early spring. I've said it before, I think, I'm not really sure. My goal for this next season is to go big for spring, because that's when the majority of my sales are there. It's the strongest part of the season for me. So spring is going to be my big push. And then the summertime, everybody has flowers in the summer. So for me at the market, sales wane. So that's when I have some opportunities for some wedding work and that kind of thing. But the spring is going to be all about tulips and alliums and crocus and hyacinths and everything early, roses, all of that, so that I can make the most of the spring, and it's going to be good. I really honestly, I can't tell you how happy I am to have all of these bulbs here. I am, gotta be fair, a little bit intimidated with all of these tulips that I need to get into, but it's actually not as difficult to plant those as it will be to plant everything else that we've done. It's pretty simple trench and fill. It's a pretty simple trench and fill setup that we have for tulips. So in the coming week, you should see an unboxing, because and normally so, there's usually some varieties that don't produce as many bulbs as needed in order to fulfill all of the orders that come in. So some of my order has changed from when I put it in I think April or March, or April or May. So I'll go through all of the different varieties that we have, and then I'll show you how we're going to plant them, and then we're getting them in the ground this next week. We have to. It's it's the very first part of November now, but I don't want to wait any longer. I got to make sure they have enough time in the ground, in the cold, to get that chill that they need in order to be a successful bloom in the spring. Okay, more about that in a later video. First things first, I'm going to set up first things first for today, I'm going to set up the auger and set up a camera and just start planting all of these. And then once I get them all in, I'll walk through where they landed, and we'll talk through it all. Okay, give me a minute. I just wanted to real quick show you what these bulbs look like. These tiny little crocus. Obviously, this is the growth point. That's the bottom. Put them in this way. I also wanted to say that if you're struggling to see which side is up on any kind of bulb, put it in on its side. It'll find its way. It'll be fine. So these guys only have to go a couple inches deep. So it's the rule of thumb, 2 to 3 times as deep as the bulb is tall. And this one is only, you know, 1/2 inch tall. So 1.5 inches, 2 inches should be sufficient. So I'm just going to dump all these in here, cover them back up, and we'll be good to go until the spring. So exciting. Okay, so we got all of those bulbs in. I did the math. It was somewhere around 150. Sorry, I know it's not raining, but it's a little chilly out. It's in the 40s. That's why I have the hat on. But around here, you saw we got all 64 of those cute little crocus in there. They will bloom, just the sweetest little flowers in the early spring. I did want to take a moment to appreciate the color, the fall color that we've got going on right now. It won't last long, but we have a little bit of it. Okay, so I'm going to walk you around and just show you where they all landed. So again, first the crocus wound up here, which is perfect. They'll come up, they'll bloom long before it's ever time to mow the lawn, and then we can mow them down later, which is just perfect, I think. I'd love to do this whole yard full of the little tiny daffodils and little crocus and all the little tiny super early spring bulbs, snowdrops and whatnot. That would be amazing. Okay, then in this garden that I've told you guys a few times, I have full intentions of doing a pretty decent overhaul of this garden in the spring, well, over next year, because it's bothering me. There's some stuff I want to change. It's disjointed. There was no plan. It's just kind of haphazard, but I wanted to get these in here anyway because I know that where they've gone is a good place and it'll look nice. So back here, we already had some of the ambassador alliums back on that side, so I just added to it, added a few here. And then the Globe Masters came in and went right in here. Oh, that was backwards. I put the Globe Masters there, ambassador alliums here. So there's 8 of those there. And I had 5 over here. And that's all I did in this front garden. Because like I said, I want to revamp quite a bit of it. Okay, and then we went back here to the cottage garden, and I just put a few in here just because, well, for one, I need to do some clearing out. The blackberries are trying to take over, but other than that, this garden is pretty full. So I didn't want to add too much extra. So back here by this hydrangea and the dogwood, I put just a few back there around this rock, so that there would be some blue or the purple popping up over there. And then just a couple back in here, right in here in front of the hydrangea. So before that starts blooming, these will bloom out, and then all the perennials will come, and it should be a good show. There's that purple, this soft purple lavender, there's pink roses, and then the white hydrangea. I'm really hopeful that it'll look nice. And then we came over here and put the majority of the the Purple Sensation Alliums. And they went all over in these gardens here. I put some back behind the rock back here, just a couple right here in front, and a bunch behind the rocks and the ferns back there, so they'll pop up behind. I think that'll look really nice. And then over here we did several plots. I did a bunch right here, back there, there's some right there, and then back in here. And if all goes well, none of these shrubs or trees will have foliage when the alliums are blooming and then soaking up nutrients and sunshine for the next season's blooms. I am pretty excited about, look, all of these John's camellias. There's already color there. Maybe it's gonna bloom here soon. There's not a lot of plants that bloom at this time of year and into the winter, but camellias are one of them. And then the last little batch I actually put over here in the new garden behind the greenhouse. I don't know that I got it on camera, but I'll show you where they are. Okay, so they wound up back here. There's a few different little spots. I put just a few right back in here, a few back in there, and then some right around the daylilies over here. I figure with the orange of the geum blooming, and then the alliums with the purple, and nothing else in here. These won't be blooming until later in the summer. That'll be a pretty nice combination with that green and the purple and the orange. And then with the yellow on these guys, it'll look really nice. And just for a reminder, this whole garden, most of it is a shade garden. And these trees all fill in, but when the alliums are blooming, these should be pretty sparse still. And then we also, a couple weeks ago, planted a bunch of allium, the little drumstick allium in here. So there's going to be allium everywhere, which I think is fantastic. Okay, so the only other bulbs that I still need to get in the ground besides the 5,000 tulips is later on in the spring, well, late winter, there'll be the second round of, I have all those anemones and ranunculus that I sprouted to put into this garden. So those should be ready in another week or two, and I get them in the ground. Winston's barking at the Amazon truck. And then I have the ranunculus to pre-sprout for the spring sowing. And I have, some winter bulbs, like some more amaryllis and paper whites and that kind of thing. Otherwise, all the bulbs are done. And next week's big project is definitely the tulips. It's going to be so much work, and it's going to be completely worth it. I should have looked. God, I love this tree so much. It's so beautiful right now. So I've showed you a couple times, but over here in this garden, these two big trenches, this is where the tulips are going to go. So I've got a lot of evening out I need to do. Couple different plans for trying to keep the moles and whatnot out of here, and then just plant them all, bury them in, and wait for spring. Okay guys, that's gonna do it for this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it. I hope maybe you learned something, maybe you're inspired. Get the last year bulbs out there before the weather really turns. If you're in our area, my 10-day doesn't show any freezing temperatures, but you never really know. That can change on a dime. It's snowing in the mountains right now. Okay guys, again, I hope you liked it. Leave a thumbs up if you did, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.